Okay, I am recording. Today is going to be my first attempt at doing a video training for everybody. This is me, Chrysanthus, and I'm going through my contracts that I have. We're going to look at Infinite Storm's Choctaw Pony. She needed to have prepped and rolled. She told me she didn't know how to do prepping, so we're going to help her out with that. So I have three screens, three tabs at the top of my screen. Everybody has their own setup. This is Firefox. I know people who use Chrome or they use color tabs or whatever. I usually keep my inventory in the third tab so I can pull up anything from shoes to tack to meths and tranks if I need them. The second one is your veterinary medicine tab. And I gotta make sure it's ready for the new pony. And the third is the tab that we'll be doing our training in. Only I messed up, so now I've got to go back and fish the pony out and stick it out of the pasture into the stable. Okay, so she's already got some years on this pony because she didn't quite know what she was doing. This is a bad habit of mine. I always record the beginning stats of where it's at when I start. So that way when you're rolling, you can see how many times you've rolled and approximately what kind of progress you've made. Okay. So her pony's not vaccinated. Normally this is the first thing that you do is you vaccinate the animal. And it looks like she needs a pair of shoes as well. So we're going to take care of that before we get started. So this pony's going to finish a little later because she started it early and didn't get very far. And this is what our handy dandy shoes are for. Now most people, if the ND is really low, like the very good that I have, you can put padded shoes on and that will help raise the ND temporarily, but I always forget to take these off, so I always go with traction shoes. It may make my road harder, but it keeps me from forgetting. Okay, so we've now vaccinated and put shoes on and recorded the starting things. I'm going to change the diet to the 100-0-0 diet. I'm not sure if it's just a quirk of mine or if it's just because I know it actually works. This diet is fantabulous simply because of the fact that it'll always leave a little tiny bit of space of energy used on your horse. So even with the higher ND, you still end up with getting stuff, and it's going to help you raise your ND a little bit faster. Although I really don't have to worry about that with these. So we're going to start by maxing intelligence. When I'm prepping ponies, I always start with intelligence first. Though technically you could start anywhere. If you wanted to be brave, you could start and work on speed laps to raise strength and speed at the same time, or strength, speed, and endurance. But raising intelligence first also raises the endurance, and it will give you some surefoot, and it'll make it a lot easier when you get to doing gated training later. So let's get started. If you notice on the screen, it didn't hit the 0.25 until after I'd done about 3 trainings. This is why we have the 100-0-0 diet, because it'll go low fairly quickly and stay that way so that you're always getting at least 0.25 every turn. You'll get more when you train speed laps or endurance, but it takes more out of your horse, and with the endurance so low, as I said before, that's really tough. And this is not a point where you pump a ton of meths into it right away. You want to wait. And it looks like I will have to give it at least 1 meth to finish out that training. Okay, now I usually give it a couple more meths just because I want its I want its hyperness to be very hyper so that when I start tranking it, it won't go low. You could choose not to do this if you don't want to. I know it takes longer if you don't use method trank at all. It's about the only method that I learned. So that's the path that we'll be taking. And if you notice, it says this horse has been cured of all health problems. Well, we just can't have that because we'll end up like we did last turn and not have our 0.25 right away. So we're going to trank it once, and then we're going to go to its screen. And as you can see, we've already raised it considerably. It went up from 88.11 to 93.09. We're shooting for 200 here. When I do mine, usually my stallions, I roll the intelligence high and the strength low, and I roll the girls the opposite so that I can get the best of both worlds. But for Infinite Storm, who I'm doing a favor for, since it seems that intelligence is the better stat on these, I'm going to roll both of them with intelligence low and strength high so that she gets the best of both worlds. Okay, so we're going to go back, and as you can see up here, the bar's just a little bit in, and it will do this while you're training. The more you take out of it, the more red bar will be gone the next turn. And you want to fit in 6 trainings each turn. And yes, I will need that booster. That's more of experience and knowing when it's going to go to exhaustion. You have to gauge when it's going to go over and when it's not. As you can see, I have a lot of horses. I pay a lot each turn for taking a turn. See, we've got a little bit more energy down this turn, so we'll definitely be doing a meth to go in to keep it up, but it'll do that until it gets to a point on endurance where it doesn't hurt as much. I did forget to mention that normally when I'm training, especially when I'm event training, I usually do arena disciplines first. You can find arena discipline well, it's here. It's under arena basic work at 3.5, but when you first start, it's arena disciplines. Um, by using this 5 times and then perhaps a speed lapse or whatever, you'll max out your basic disciplines to 200 of 150, which is important for event training, but not so important if you're just breeding. And since we're with foundies here, we're not going to worry about disciplines. Okay. The higher the ND you have, though, the less it takes out, and I actually end up tranking more with the higher ND horses, like Arabians. If I get Arabians, I end up tranking them because they have inconceivable endurance, which is usually extraordinary as foundies, and you end up having to trank them in order to make the best out of your training. See, we're back to that little space there that I told you before. And as I said before, everybody has their own way. Oh, excuse me, I have hiccups. Everyone has their own way of doing it, but this is how I managed to learn when I was first doing this. Okay. And if you're hearing weird noises in the background, that's my husband playing Fallout 4. Okay. See, when I tried curing it, it says the horse is at optimal health. So we did not exhaust it, and I didn't give it too many meths because it won't let me fix it. Sometimes you get that, so you just got to deal with what you get, which isn't a problem. We've made some good progress. We're at 121 now. We've managed to recover well. And this time I got all 6 trainings in, and I didn't have to use a meth. But that may not hold true for the rest of the training because the endurance is or the energy is down again. So it just bounces back and forth, which is why you have to watch the endurance as well as how many trainings you get in to know when you need to apply the meth versus when you can go a full turn. I didn't discuss bonuses or training anything while I was here. Um, this is a good thing. This is my sport ranch. Most people will recognize the name Angel Wings, my primary ranch where I do my track and endurance racers. I do not have pony bonuses on here, so you won't see the .2 raising while I'm training. My pony ranch is a different ranch. Um, it's a little more difficult if you are trying to roll a horse on a ranch that has the bonus on it because it'll raise something randomly by .2 and could mess up your high-low stats. You'd only have to keep an eye on that and make sure that there's enough of a distance between high and low. Other than that, you can still manage it. I know folks who do. And I have to say, honestly, in the time that I've learned, and I still consider myself a noob in many ways, there are some of these trainings that I have yet to use, that I've never really used. So isn't that weird? Or maybe hyper specialized of me. Who knows? All right. So we're now nearing 100 endurance. We're at 99. And as you can see, it's getting a little easier each turn to get 6 trainings of obstacle in. And you pretty much use obstacle all the way until you max intelligence. And then once you max intelligence, in these foundies, you're way past 2.5. But once you max intelligence, you'll probably move to gated to raise your surefoot and movement so that you can max those out next. I can't tell you how many times I've pulled horses off of the marketplace and everything looks great until you go look at its surefoot and movement, and then you're squeamish and you're like, ugh. Oh, who's messaging me? Oh, just family. And you will notice with each training that it is raising surefoot. It won't max it, but it does help the higher you can get the surefoot before you have to actually get to the gated training. Now, gated training usually will max your strength. In some cases, depending on how low your strength is when you start, it won't max out. Usually if my strength maxes out while I'm doing gated, I usually switch to polo because surefoot won't be finished by the time you get your strength maxed out, and you can use polo to raise your speed and finish off strength if you need to finish off strength. It's kind of a dual purpose thing. Okay. I know I talk a lot. I don't know if this is soothing it or not, since this is my first go at this. I'm just trying to remember everything while I'm training, because there are things that I take for granted that I know after the years I've spent on here, and there are some things that I just don't know. And here's something good. This is what longevity does for those of you who have taken the longevity bonus on your ranch. It is the chance for your horse not to age on a turn. This is crucial when you're trying to train a track racer or pretty much any sort of eventing horse. You want to make them finish as young as possible so they have better stats as possible. This happens too while you're prepping and rolling. You will get times where longevity will proc for you. So this is our first one on Choctaw. And as you see, the Indies closed up some. Usually at this point, I usually have to worry about starting a trank because it may not go to the 0.25 right away. It's good for us. See, yes, it didn't go up 0.25. I think that's my fault because I think I hit that meth extra on the last turn. But that's okay, we can fix that. One tranquilizer and we're back on track. And since they lifted the hard cap on endurance, so that they really only soft cap, when I red letter, this is not going to red letter since I'm going to roll this animal. This animal is going to stop at 200. But most animals have their stopping points. Some animals it's 209. Some of them it's 211, between 210 and 211. It depends on the breed. As you can see, we're drawing ever closer. We're at 169 intelligence. And our ND isn't hurting us as much anymore, so we can usually get 6 trainings in. And I do mentally count these off in my head, even though I've done this 1,000 times by now. I still count them off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just to be sure that I get them in, because every now and then I'll only go 5 and I won't remember if I actually did the 6th one, because I'm weird like that. Okay, see that ND gap is closing again, and we're at 177. We're still doing good. And I never like to say somebody's doing it wrong when they do something on VHR. I like to say that they haven't refined their learning yet, because there's many things you can do. There's many different ways to do the same thing. It just depends on how soon you want the results, because I'm sure there could be a totally other different way of rolling a horse and getting its stats to 200 without using obstacle. I'm sure you can use halter or something like that. I just don't think the results would be as good. So mine are just suggestions. If you think you can see something in here that'll help you do it faster, more of the power to you. Because I'm still figuring things out that I never knew, and everybody has their own training secrets that they use. And for me, anything I don't consider anything I do a secret. I consider it, I've discovered what somebody else might have already known since this game has been out for quite some time. See, if you see this number below 449, as soon as this hits 450, the horse is going to reach, it's going to say that one of your stats have reached its stat cap and things will start degrading, blah, blah, blah. You'll see it on the next turn. It always happens at 450. And by all means, it does not mean to stop training or that you've reached a cap in any way, shape, or form. It's just letting you know that the horse is, the stats are starting to take effect. Generally, if you get something to 200 by this point, it'll start rolling the stat down because you'll have one stat at 200 and the others will be below, so it'll roll the one stat that's at 200, which is why sometimes when you're training, speed or endurance will roll over while you're training because they're close. See, there it is. This horse has reached a statistic cap, meaning its natural stats are beginning to evolve. If you keep training the horse, it'll continue to gain. Since the horse has reached a cap of sorts, its actual stats start to decay or remain balanced. To me, this is just, usually can get this at early on, once your horse is out of the foundy stage. But this is usually a good sign if you see this. And this is also a good sign to see if you're training, event training, or entering into events. You know if you've skipped a turn if you don't see this, because by the time you're eventing a horse, you should be seeing this sign every time you train. Okay. So to get back off of the event training thing, I will go back to finishing off. We're almost done. We're at 193 now. And look, we're back to that little square again. We're going to have to start mething again. We won't have to do it for very long because as soon as we finish intelligence, we have to go to gated, and that's going to take some energy from your horse, and we will be mething again. Oops, I started gated. See how that changed? Strength went up by 676, movement by 853, surefoot by 343. That's what you're going to be seeing change. But we're going to go back to obstacle. It's a good thing I'm making these mistakes. It gives me a chance to show you the difference in how the stats change when you're training. And don't forget to boost your horse back up, because if you don't, it'll end up coming back as calm or something. You want the mood to stay very hyper while you're training, even if you have to meth them. So we're at 196. We're almost done. Almost done. Oh, that's not bad. Okay, so we finished intelligence. I don't know why I did that. I thought I'd tranked it this turn. So usually this is what I come over here and do then. I put at what time, or not necessarily what time, I put what the stat is at the time of my finishing it and what its points are. So we're at 214%, which is pretty high. It's actually getting ready to go to Fantastic. Fantastic is around 212, 211 or so. So this is about ready to roll down to Fantastic, which is fantastic. And 200.43 is average. We want this to be low. So while it's not high, I've had ones that have gone over to 200.6 or higher, which means we're just going to want everything else to go higher than this. So speed, endurance, and strength all have to go above 0.43 when we finish them in order for this to finish low. But they can't be so high as they overtake strength. So now that we finished that, we're going to look at our other stats now. Everything except for speed has gradually evolved. Endurance is now at 121. 130 is generally when it's safe enough to get all 6 of your gated trainings in. As you can see, we're at 121.1.43. So there's going to be some meth involved while we do this gated training. And this is why you have to have shoes on. If you do not have shoes on your horse, your gated training will max out at 205% for surefoot and like 210 for movement speed, or 200 possibly. I forget what the actual percentage is when you don't have the shoes on the horse when you're maxing out gated. That's how you can generally tell the difference. A lot of old style horses, if you ever see them on here and they're at 205%, that means that there's not shoes on them, so they didn't finish their movement in surefoot, which means their offspring will not have max surefoot and movement when they're bred, which means more work for you if you're trying to event them. Just in case you wanted to know what good it was. Okay, so we're starting Choctaw off at 465. Not so bad. It didn't take too much. I think we started at 3.45. And at 4.65, he's done with his intelligence. So we're going to move on to gated. And I do not think we need to use a meth with this one. Nope. See, from that first training, even with that little bit of a sliver, it gave us some because this is quite taxing on the horse with his low endurance as of right now. And that is 6 trainings. And see how fast this stuff goes up. Movement will overtake surefoot. It will finish before surefoot. Usually when movement finishes, that's when I move to polo, whether strength is finished or not, so that speed starts raising, because strength will be up in its 100s or so when we finish. So let's take a turn. Well, yes. Oh, look, we got another one. This horse did not age. Good for you, good for everybody. Yay! Okay, so here we are into our gated training. This is where you're going to see a lot of the boosters come in, because I'll try to make sure that I can get all 6 of my trainings in. I do try to use as few boosters as possible. I try not to over booster, except for in those instances you caught me doing it earlier because I forgot if I used them or not. I'm not used to talking and training at the same time. As you can see, we're at 124 endurance so far. We're not doing so bad. Okay. And you basically repeat this over and over until we get this maxed out. And I will keep you guys on this video until I'm done with this particular horse. I don't want anybody to think that they're missing anything. It's actually quite boring unless you have music or something to listen to, which I did not put on because I wanted to make sure you can still hear me. I sing horribly, by the way. And that was me forgetting to booster my horse before continuing with my trainings. As we're nearing 130, we'll have to use the meth less and less, and you can just do all 6 trainings in one turn. Looks like I may not have to meth the next turn. We're exactly at 130. We shall see. Nope, I am going to have to use a meth. Just one. But see how strength is raising as well? It's at 103 now. Like I said, usually by the time movement is max, this will be up 150, 170, something around that range. Since this is the first of my videos, I'll probably be doing a track and an endurance one as well. I might even do a stat max one because stat maxing is different from prepping, which is what we're doing with this horse here. This horse is being prepped, which means his base stats are all going to 200 and surefoot and movement are going to be maxed out. Stat maxing is the first thing that I learned and thought was the bee's knees when I learned on a VHR. Basically, it's putting these three basic stats here, strength, intelligence, and speed to 200, and maxing on endurance as far as it'll let you go. For some horses, it's 209. For some of them, it's 210 or 211. It really all depends on the horse. That's stat maxing. And it really doesn't serve any purpose to stat max. Prepping and rolling them are a lot better for breeding. And if you're going to stat max a horse, it's better just event train them anyway. So if you're going to event train them, it's better to event train them than to stat max them because stat maxing does not prepare them for eventing. All it does is, like I said, if you want to breed your horse and if you want to say you at least stat maxed it, it's great to have a stat maxed example. Um, I don't do stat maxing anymore. I don't have anybody that just sits there to look pretty, so I'm either eventing my horses or I'm breeding them, so they're either being prepped and rolled or they're being event trained, and either way, the stat maxing isn't any use to me personally. If you find use with it, please let me know what you find use with it in. I suppose it might do good if you're just planning on doing Gymkhana, since Gymkhana has no general rules and it's random who wins. I suppose if you're going to do stat maxing for Gymkhana, that might work. If you're trying to raise money and you have a horse, stat maxing is probably good for that because it won't matter what your stats are. And I got off track. I totally wasn't even doing anything while I was talking. As you can see, movement has overtaken Surefoot. Okay. Looks like we're only using one meth a turn now. Yeah, that last one's going to take some energy out. Here we go. Keep going. If you look, while this stayed the same because this is the note that I made for Infinite Storm, Intelligence's stat has moved down to 213. It has already started to roll. It'll probably hit Fantastic before I'm done with gated training. We'll see. Not quite positive on that, but that's my prediction. Oh, look, I exhausted my horse. This happens. And when this happens, you take a turn, and instead of going to cure, go to apply medicine because it will cure your energy, so you're able to meth your horse and cure it. Well, not say cure it, but meth it. So you applied the medicine, and it's going to put a huge gap of red across your horse's energy. But if you notice here, this condition here is green, so I can continue training, even though it says exhaustion here. And we got a red bar here, but I can at least still meth the horse while the condition is all green. If it's red, it won't let me meth as much. So apply medicine if you exhaust your horse. And we're just going to put this booster on here just to be careful. And there we go. Take turn, and this time we're going to come over here and cure just to be sure that we got it. It says he's at optimal health, so he recovered. Okay. What do I got going on down here? I got a chat open here. Oh, somebody messaged me. Oh, looks like Draggy surprised me with something. That wasn't supposed to be in the middle of my video, but oh well, I'll live. It's my first one. Okay. Just return to our training guide here. See, this one's not going up by 0.25, so it looks like I'm going to have to start mething them in order to get all of my trainings in. And now I'm able to fit all 6 trainings in, hopefully reliably. See, movement's already at 187. It's going to cap before I finish. Okay. One booster. No. Okay, I was getting distracted. Okay. I think by now we all know the current cycle here is just training gated up until we get this to max out. Oh, that was close. Did you see how close that little sliver was? We're gonna pop a couple boosters on there because I don't know if I can do another training without tiring it. Okay. Oh man, I bet you I forgot to booster that horse when I was finished. Sometimes. I was really getting distracted. Okay. Let's just booster this one to be sure. I hate when I lose track of what I'm doing. Okay. Okay. So you got an important little thing down there. Gonna go back really quick. There was a red thing down there that said that movement was maxed out. You're not going to see it on this one, so let me booster it. Take a turn. And look, we're at 212, but the stat hasn't rolled yet. It might take another couple of turns before that happens. But just to show you that thing again, we'll just hit gated. It says horses captain movement 216.3, and that's because I have a bonus on my ranch that raises it. Otherwise, I think it's 215. So now that we've finished Surefoot, our movement, Surefoot's still horribly below. Um, I'm going to move to polo because it'll raise endurance, strength, speed, and surefoot. And if surefoot still needs finished by the time we're done, then we'll move back to gated. This is why we stay in halter, because that way you can move back and forth as you need to. Oh my god, I forgot to hit the training switch. See how that's changed? Speed, strength, endurance, and surefoot. Now we've switched to doing the most important ones. And as I said, this is 171 now. I figured about as much. And now we will do polo. Polo will require mess because it's not nearly as tiring. Um, so here we go. Let me just be sure first. We'll hit one polo. Yeah, see, it's not giving us any endurance. So that was our free buy turn while I was showing you that. And now we're going to trank it. Ooh, yeah. Okay. So we go back over here, and now it's going to be polo. As I said, this is entirely, it can get boring after a while. But for those who just have to know exactly if I change anything throughout, I really don't. Booster. Okay, so that's not what I was looking for. Here we go. Tranquilizer. And polo. And don't forget to booster the end of turn. That's why you always need a lot of mess and tranks. You can make them pretty quickly um, and keep them on yourself. Sometimes I sell them. I'll sell a page or two and keep the rest to myself for training. But I always recommend, and since this is one of my major eventing ranches where I train and event my sporties, I always have a lot of meth and trank on this account. Okay. Booster, take turn, tranquilizer. You do need 100 skill in order to activate your veterinary services. As you see, strength is going to finish out first. You might hear my birds in the background if you have keen ears. I can hear them. Now I usually give Polo or Surefoot until I finish out speed before I switch back to gated. Um, just because I'd rather finish out speed than jump back and forth between disciplines. And once strength maxes out anyway, you won't see it raising anymore under Polo anyway. And see, that ended up on the low stat. We're going to have to raise strength, so I will show you how to do that so that you can make sure it is the high stat. So I am going to hit driving because that will boost strength by quite a bit. That's going to tell you should train your horse in the basics of harness because your disciplines aren't maxed out. Once your disciplines are maxed out, then you don't have to worry about it. And driving actually does take some endurance, so. Okay, see it's only at 21, we still need to do. Okay, so we're going to take a turn. We are going to trank. We are going to click on the horse's name. And this is all for the purpose of making sure strength is higher than intelligence. So that intelligence is the low stat. And now we've overtaken it, but we're going to do just a little bit more to ensure that it is over. So now we come over here to strength, and it's at 249%. And now it's above intelligence, and it's the high stat. Okay, so we're going to take a turn. And return to Polo now that I've fixed that so that it'll roll that intelligence. And it always seems to go so slow for me when it's actually really going fast. I'm sure there's ways to automate this. I don't. I like doing it personally. It takes longer, but it's how you're sure you don't over-exhaust the horse. I hit gated, you can tell. Okay. Okay, already strength rolled. It went down from 249 to 248, so as the high stat, it's also rolling. I also have rolling rodeo on here, so that's why you're probably seeing these roll faster. If you don't have rolling rodeo on your account, it'll go a lot slower. But it is by all means not needed in order to prep a horse. It just makes it easier for the stats to roll. Okay, so okay, so now we're back to rolling in polo again. Okay, don't forget to booster, because if I don't say it, I won't do it. As you see, Indy's getting really close as well. It's at 182. While neither speed nor gated is ready. But that's okay. Everything catches up in the end. Okay, so here we are back at polo again. And you could tell speed is not its thing. It is taking forever. Faster speed horses raise and their speed's so much easier. This horse just didn't want to do it. It's too tired. But as Draghi says, just hit it with a stick until it does what you want it to do. Oh, I did gate it again. Did you? I can't believe I did that. Okay. That's how you know I'm getting old and becoming an old farty, because I can't remember what I last did. I did it again. That is so annoying. Okay, I did that. Now I'm getting paranoid. I'm like, did I do it? Did I not do it? And endurance is almost finished, which is good because then we can take it off the 100 diet once it's finished. And we are almost done with Indy. Yay! Okay. All right, we have that endurance is going to be switching over in the next turn. There we go. It's higher than intelligence, lower than strength. So that is perfect. So now we're going to shrink this baby so that he doesn't do anything else. And continue training this turn. And now we'll go to horse. This is 4-6. And Indy is... All right, now see here where it says they're both 0.43. In the other screen, you can see that intelligence is higher. And now we're going to change our diet because we don't need to keep the 0-0 diet now that we've got endurance where we want it. So now it's about polo. And now I'm going to cheat. This is iMacros. Congratulations. Here's your introduction to how I do most of my stuff when I get high enough. I'm going to slip over to polo. And what age are we at? 725. This is what this does. It automates doing all 6 turns for you, and you don't have to do it. Isn't that wonderful? Well, you still have to press a button, but it's not click, 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 click. This actually saves your wrist a little bit of pain. Got another turn we can do, and as you can see, speed is almost done. It's going to finish next turn. Okay, so, and it finished really low, so now I have to do polo a little bit longer in order to get it up above. Uh, 385. Okay, so where are we now? We are at another 4-3, but we need polo to go one higher. Come back. Polo again. Four, 4. There we go. So 238%, 244. Perfect. Now we just got to finish gated, which is just going to push strength a little bit higher, but that's okay. It will roll down. So now we're going to move to gated training. I got to make this even because she's almost 8 years old. Uh, 7, 9. Nope, got another year. Okay, here we are, 8 years old. So we're gonna, oh, and it did roll to fantastic. So I'll just mark that here. And we will do 10 turns to see when this horse is gonna finish. And stop. Okay. Everything is now finished. We got a 225, 200. So this is a fully prepped horse ready to roll. This horse is ready to roll. Strength is at the high, intelligence is the low. But that is, in effect, the basics of how to get a horse prepped for rolling.